everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Alicia Elizabeth, and today we will be discussing The Gifts of Imperfection by Dr. Brene Brown. And I have with me today two very special people that have followed along with the series at different times, who have the book and have read it on their own, and who volunteered to come and chat with me about some of the topics covered in this book. So before we get into the discussion, I want them to interview themselves. I think we'll start with Tierra. Tell us who you are, your name, anything about you, where people can find you if they want to follow you, anything that you're promoting or would like to start putting your hands to the plow about, things like that.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tierra Glim. I am a social worker, currently work at a substance abuse residential facility. Right now, I'm actually planning a podcast. So it's nothing to broadcast, but just to say something might be coming.
That's right.
But I am excited to be here. I'm very proud of you, Alicia. This book and your series just have been helpful since you started. And, you know, I've been reading this book for a very long time. It's not that thick, but, you know, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But I'm just excited to engage in this talk, this girl talk, unpack some things, and I'm here. I'm ready.
Thank you. I just want to say your podcast is worth announcing because people might be like, bet, let me follow her now. So when she launches
it. So my Instagram is _Miss MISS period Shanice SHANISE.
Yes.
Yes. Come on, girl. Do we need to know this podcast name too?
Listen, we have to announce that because
right, like what? All right, so hi, I'm Rakiya. My Instagram is Rakiya Amara. It's RAKIYA AMAARA. There are two A's in there. I know everybody spells Mara differently. I just got back on Twitter, so if you want my Twitter, it's Rakiya.Amara. I currently am in the health field and am working at the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. I'm really into women's health and reproductive health, and so I'm looking into a new thing that I'm going into, thinking about being certified in actual vaginal steaming. So just allowing women to have the natural approach to a lot of different health issues that women are having in their reproductive systems. That's like a little goal that I'm kind of working on. What else? I'm very excited also, as Tierra said, to be unpacking this book. Alicia has been putting her foot on our neck, as she keeps saying in all of her videos. Bridget got her foot on her neck. She got her foot on our neck.
Mm-hmm.
And this has definitely been quite a journey. Tierra, I agree. I've been reading this book for about 5 years. I would not have completed any of the thoughts because every time I got to the first chapter, I was like, goodbye.
Right.
She let close.
So I am thankful that Alicia has even come through and read the book to completion and got us through it, because without her, we would still be reading for another 5 years.
Oh my God.
I'm excited also. I'm excited also for this girl talk and just to really, like you said, unpack everything, see what touches us most, and, you know, give different perspectives, which I think we all think differently, but all, you know, are very similar at the same time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So before we get started, I want to invite you to just take a deep breath. Okay, because I know we're recording, but we all know each other. We're not worried about who's watching and how we're going to perfect it. Like, at the core of this, we have to be open and honest. Remember, you're allowed to tell me what you don't want to talk about, but someone's going to watch this and be like, man, I can really relate to her or them. I'm actually going to work backwards because when you all were introducing yourself, it brought to me one of the chapters that she talks about needing to feel like you do meaningful work, right? Or having to always monetize our hobbies. So just a very simple question. You can take it wherever you want, but me asking you what you did and not thinking that you would have to announce that, was that uncomfortable? Did you feel like you had to have something to say? Did you for a moment feel like you don't do enough? Like, what was that experience like in just sharing like what you do. Like, I mean, I know both of you have gifts and talents outside of your careers, but yet both of y'all shared mainstream what you do for a living. So tell me what that introduction piece is like, because sometimes that can be the most stressful part in participating in anything. It's like, okay, I got to introduce myself first, but I got to make it sound like I do everything. And then you get to the end of the panel and that person's like, I'm a writer, a jogger, I do makeup, I do hair, I do fitness. As a matter of fact, I'm doing squats as I sit here. Like,
Yeah.
So what was that like?
For me, so I feel like now I am getting more comfortable with saying what I do for a living as a social worker, because I just graduated last year.
Come on.
So a lot of so, you know, I feel like a lot of people coming fresh, like out of school and actually starting to work, I personally felt like I wasn't ready yet. So I got the title, but I felt like I wasn't ready for the title because I know many more experience and this journey is going to continue. So I used to be nervous saying, like, oh, I'm a social worker, because naturally sometimes think, oh, like you do this. And I'm like, pause. I just started. Like, I haven't done none of that.
Trust me with people, please.
So it's kind of like, I felt like I wasn't ready to like claim the title in a sense. So now I'm getting comfortable in my skin to say like, oh, I'm a social worker. You know what I'm saying? I might not specialize in this, but social work is so broad. Right now I'm working in this area. So it's kind of like acknowledging it and claiming it. You know what I'm saying? So I think now that's where I'm getting comfortable in. Honestly, when you asked the question about any projects you work in, that's where I became hesitant. Okay. Because I think I've talked to you, like I've been putting this podcast on pause for a very long time. So when you asked that, I was like, what should I say? Because nothing is really, I'm not really working on nothing. I have this idea that I've been thinking about, but I ain't put no work in yet. So that's why I got nervous.
And I'm gonna be honest, I did that intentionally because I'm like, I need y'all to know that, like, yes, we're talking about the book, and yes, people can follow what I have going on, but I know that both of you have private projects, and I'm like, let me see if they're gonna mention it. Whether the work is complete or not, let me see if they're gonna like put themselves on the map real quick. So I was really happy that you did, even Rakiya.
I was like, in my head, I'm like, she ain't really do nothing.
I was like, what you working on? What can they follow you for? I'm like, let me see if they're gonna say anything about it, and y'all did. Okay.
Yeah, I can definitely say it was kind of weird / uncomfortable, but I liked it because I, like you said, we're both, you know us, but we're very private people. And so a lot of times, and I'm sure you're gonna step on our neck with this in this book because I know she won't talk about it, but I feel like there are a lot of times where you don't really know if you are willing to share something until you've completed it, until it's successful.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of like, well, I don't want to tell everybody that I'm doing this because first of all, it makes me vulnerable. Now people are going to like think something of me. And then depending on what it is, like for instance, like vaginal steaming is very taboo. I've been doing research like the last 24 hours, I'll say. But my mom has been so much into it that like she's kind of guided me, and I've been like, yo, I've been wanting to do women and reproductive health for a long time. This is what I want to do. And it's so taboo. And so to open up to people and as I was thinking about it yesterday, like, what am I going to tell people when I start this business? Like, how do I promote that? And so you asking that question is like, oh, I have to tell people what I'm doing.
Do it.
And then, you know, accomplish it and or fail it, you know, be comfortable with either one. And so I thought that was very interesting. It's also interesting because I love what you said, Tierra, because you are new in your field, so you're like growing in that space. And for me, I've been in health, but the place that I'm working is very different from the mindset that I want to go into later. So for me, mentioning my job is like, oh yeah, that's my daily, you know. But what am I passionate about? And I now have to mention that, and it's very different than what I do. So it was definitely that moment where it's like, Okay. I'll mention my handles first.
Buy some time.
Yeah.
I love that. Because it's like when we ask people what they do, we instantly go to the things that establish like some level of worth or get accolades from. And like Rakiya, you could have been like, I'm a singer. You know, like there's a lot of things that we can say we do. Top of my mind, but I'm like, Tierra could be like, I'm a full-time traveler. Like, we don't have to be. Why do we have to have these titles from jobs in order for it to be something we do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when people follow you or get to know you, these are things you do, and you do well mindlessly. And yet we only go to what degrees we have, what occupation we carry. Like, what if I worked at Starbucks? I'm like, well, I'm a barista. Like, no, I'm still a teacher. I just, right now, my income is from, I don't work at Starbucks right now. But if I did, I would say, like, would I say I'm a barista or would I be like, I'm a full-time teacher? I'm just not currently teaching. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, okay, let's get into the meat of things. Some of the questions that I'm going to ask you are like questions that will probably be asked in any discussion if it's around this book, because I think they set the stage for this discussion, and then some will veer off based on what we talk about. So the first question is that the foundation of Brené's entire book, in order for everything she talks about to really make sense, is that we have to have an understanding and feel like we are worthy. Okay. And so my first questions include, do you feel worthy, and what does it mean to be worthy to you? You think about yourself, do you say like, you know what, I'm worthy? And if you don't, why not? Like, where does the struggle come in? Where's the disconnect? And if you do feel worthy, what does it mean to be worthy to you?
So as we were reading this book and conversations that we were having, I remember when we were talking about a conversation that I was having with someone that when they asked me a question, I was very nervous about talking about it. And it had to deal with my past. And a lot of times when you think about your past, you can paint your own picture without including anything. So you can look perfect. And struggling with perfectionism, I can easily let go of everything I've grown up doing or had in my past or done or whatever. And after really, diving into it and talking about it and unpacking it, and we were just thinking like, these things really do, they've made you who you are. And so you have to understand that everything from your past makes you worthy, And I was talking to my mom about that actually a couple of days ago. And I was just like, yeah, like I've always wanted to be a PA because of my doctor when I was like 13 and I had went to her and blah, blah. And I'm like really like giving her this narrative, and she never knew. She's my mom. Like she was there with me, but I was just like telling her this whole journey. And as I was telling her, I was like, wow, this is me really accepting that the things I've gone through do make me worthy. It's putting me in this place. And so I think for me, worthiness really does come down to accepting everything about yourself and very much being whole, like being authentic, being vulnerable, being open, and like accepting that. So that was really big. I was like, ooh. I'm like, wait a minute. Go ahead.
Okay. Next question.
How it, from like when you were 13, the stuff that like when it was happening probably felt like crap or didn't make sense, and how it lands you or leads you right to where it's like, no, I needed that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
And then it's like, dang, it's a whole 16 years later. Like, why am I still holding on to that and not feeling like, hey, you're good enough? Like, those things made you. You couldn't have been this person without that. So, it was big. I was like, okay.
Damn. Okay, we going there, Rakiya.
Rakiya said we're not.
It's only been a couple of minutes. Like we going there.
I came with my
okay.
What are you doing?
It's Alicia. She stepped on my neck.
That is a very good. So the first thing I actually thought about was back in high school when we was, can you think of the program? The thing with Mr. Urban.
Program.
That yes.
I already knew.
God, that program.
But I'm gonna say this. I feel like that was like the introduction of what does worthiness look like in a sense, as in waiting until marriage to have sex. So I feel like over the years, when we was younger, you know, at least we used to always have like talks about, oh yeah, I'm worthy of this, this, this. Like we was very confident in high school. We was walking it. But I feel like it wasn't until we start having different experiences, like in relationships, whether it's at work or jobs or wherever, that I started questioning, am I worthy, to be honest? I talked a good game, but it wasn't until experience started coming, it was just like, okay, this is a little uncomfortable a little bit. And I had moments where I did question it. I feel like now at 28, my idea of worthiness or am I worthy is, am I feeling enough? And I feel like right now I am confident in myself, because this is before I feel like I wasn't as confident. I feel like I said, I talked a good game. But now it's like, I feel like I am enough in a sense. And it's kind of, like I said, owning it and claiming it, especially in times where I'm starting to even question myself. It's still actually sitting with my discomfort and like, you know what, no, T, like, fight those thoughts. You are enough in a sense. And I realize there are going to be times where you might question your worth. Because, you know, sometimes life throws you things that you can't even control, and it can be distracting and things like that. But I feel like my first thought about worthiness started when we was in high school. And I think over time it changed, because I thought I connected worthiness with being abstinent and things like that. Not necessarily like how you view yourself and your self-worth, like things like that. I didn't never connect it in a sense. So
I want to come back to the abstinence program, but so with you feeling like you've had new experiences, what now makes you feel worthy? If it's not that program, if it's not being abstinent, what is it?
I feel like now is me being aware of the good tea and the bad tea, the tea that I don't like to show anybody, the tea that I hide behind a mask sometimes. It's like that kind of make me more like open about it. I feel like I'm more open to have conversations like these compared to before. I used to only have it with my close circle. And then I realized, like, Tierra, you say a lot of relatable stuff, and you're able, like, I feel like a good trait about me, I'm able to connect with people. And I feel like it feels good to be able to be vulnerable and not feel like looking at vulnerability as like a bad thing in a sense. So it's kind of like now is, you know, Tierra, you are not perfect. You don't got to be perfect. Who taught you to be, that you had to be perfect? And just owning it in a sense. I keep saying owning it because that's just been my thing. For real. That's just literally been my thing. So did I answer your question?
Yeah. And I love that you say being enough, because it's like, and then you went into saying that good tea, bad tea. It's like really you are coming to grips with the fact that here's the different shades of me. I'm good. I'm good. Like you might get a knife, you might get a hug. I'm good. You know? But you know, it's funny that you say that, because I don't think I thought about this in high school, but now as an adult, that program, and not to shade that program, but programs like that can be so, the word I'm thinking is so damning, because in high school, you have women who are choosing to be abstinent, being told to be abstinent, or have already decided to be sexually active. And if your program is based in telling girls that their vagina makes them worthy when they don't use it for reproduction purposes or for pleasure, what happens to the group of women who are not abstaining? Are they now not worthy? And then the girls who are feeling worthy based on abstaining, do we now put a divide between worthiness solely because we're not having sex? And what happens if we don't make it to marriage?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And
that's like crazy, right? Like I remember high school. I mean, I wasn't sexually active, and so that was like a badge of honor. But then you get to college and you grown and you like, what? chocolate walking by. Hold up. I might throw this worthy badge off real quick.
No, but that's, yeah, I feel like that is
nobody,
real.
I'm gonna be worthy tomorrow, not tonight. Like,
I feel like, don't get me wrong, I think it was a great program, but just looking at, I feel like sometimes it wasn't as, I don't want to say realistic, but it didn't prepare you for like what life can actually throw at you and how to process that. This is not just about not having sex. This is also about, what are your values? You know what I'm saying? How are you going to honor these things when things get thrown at you, etc.? I feel like it just focused.
Program is that? What are your values?
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, if your values are not abstinent, like it didn't, like, it wasn't transparent in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, if I came to a meeting and I was like, I almost had a slip up, how am I processing that with folks? You know, or is it looking like no sex? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, how are we having conversations about this temptations? Because it goes beyond just not having sex. What about my values when it comes to schoolwork? Or with my friends, if I'm questioning my self-esteem. Like, it was just more than just having conversations about sex. You know what I'm saying? I think it goes into different things that it never really touched on in a sense. And just the thing, like, I was in that program since middle school. Like, I was like when we brought it to walls, like, I was doing that program since middle school. And like I said, it's a great program, but I think looking back, I wish I would have had different type of conversations in that group.
Yeah.
You know, that I would like to have with young women who are thinking about it. Not saying they have to do it, but are considering, even if they already have had sex, considering changing their lifestyle and things like that. So
yeah, that's big, because I think I did that program obviously when we were in high school, but then also like later in adult life. And it's interesting because at the time that it was brought to the school, like, I was already sexually active. So I wasn't, I heard it, but I wasn't hearing it. I was like, I already lost it. Sorry, I can't do anything with this information. And then like later down the line, and because I wasn't fully in my walk with Christ either. And he has a biblical perspective to it at some point. And so like, there was just two disconnects. It was like, okay, I'm here, but I'm not really here. But later on down the line, when I did commit my life to Christ and I was more like, okay, you know, I'm going to abstain, I'm going to wait until marriage and everything like that. I kind of got connected with him again. And I understood the perspective of where he was coming from. But it's interesting to hear how you can see, you know, one view versus another view and all this other stuff. And it does make you feel like the only way to, as a woman, your worth does come from, or that's what they make it seem like, is that your worth only comes from if you've had sex or not, or, you know, if you are continuing to be, if you are continuing to abstain. So like you said, you know, you can have self-esteem issues, you can have boundary issues, you can have perfectionism issues, you can have all these different issues, but, oh, well, my vagina's intact, so everything is good. Like, I should be okay. I should know that I'm worthy, but you're fighting other things. So I think it is important for people to, and like you said, not damning the program either, but just understanding that there are so many different issues that come within being growing up as a female, growing up as a male, whatever, that have to be addressed before you start just hitting on like, all right, well, stop here.
Yeah.
And have issues with everything else. So really big.
Okay. Thank you. When you hear the word vulnerability, what comes to mind?
All right, it's time to hit the trail.
You're like, hello? You got it?
You're like, suddenly Zoom, y'all sitting there frozen like, I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it.
Vulnerability.
I'll let you start with that one.
Under the bus, Rakiya.
Okay, vulnerability.
Or if you don't want to tell me what comes to mind, because you don't have to have, it's no right or wrong answer. Tell me what you feel, like a memory. It could be anything. Like when I say vulnerability, just off the top of your head, what like I see already in y'all body actions, y'all want to avoid it. Okay, got it. But
vulnerability for me is total honesty. Being open, um, that worthiness does come into it, because you have to be able to know that you're worthy to be vulnerable. You have to know, like, okay, the things that I've done, the things that I've said, um, I can now be open with somebody and tell them, like, hey, I've done this thing, I've said this thing. Like, all right, for instance, just a small example. Nobody likes to say that they're a gossiper. Nobody likes to say that. Nobody's ever going to admit to that. But if you have if you've accepted that you are a gossiper, and the majority of people do gossip, then at some point you can then be vulnerable with somebody and say, like, and admit that you do that. So you can say, like, oh, like, people always be like, no, I don't gossip about nothing, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden you're talking to your friend and you're like, oh yeah, girl, because she do this, she do that, and she do that, and he do this, he do this, he do that. But it's not until you get confronted with something that you have to be open about it or be honest about it and say, like, hey, transparent moment, vulnerable moment, I have been talking about you, or I've said this thing about you, or I've said this thing about this person. And so I think vulnerability is really about being acceptance. It's really about being open, definitely about being honest. And that worthiness does come into it. And it's really hits on that self piece, like self-worthiness, just a lot of those pieces about the person in general, that you have to be like, okay, I'm willing to say this thing, be open about it, tell people, just feel like, okay, I can say this. Allowing, like, that thing that happens in the private to kind of to shine in the light.
Okay. Okay. That happened in the private. Okay.
Ooh. So I think for me, vulnerability looks like taking a risk and not knowing what's going to happen, how the person might receive it, where life may go. Like, it's that big risk. And I think it's uncomfortable. It's like taking that uncomfortable risk in a sense. And I'm practicing vulnerability daily. I feel like I used to feel nervous, like telling somebody, like, oh, like if they did something that bothered me. I used to feel like I used to brush it off. You know what I'm saying? I think even in my friendships, it's been times where I feel like I need to go to my corner and process things by myself instead of just reaching out for help when I wanted help. Or I had this unrealistic expectation, like, oh, my friends know what's wrong with me, so they should already know to hit me up at this time, such and such, instead of just being like, I need an ear right now, in a sense. So, and even being in my field, I've noticed vulnerability comes up a lot, especially in conversations with clients who are unpacking things. And even as a counselor, learning how to say, like, you know, this conversation is getting tough. I might have to pause it a little bit. And I think that's a vulnerability act, because I know it's starting to impact me and I cannot provide you the service that you need right now, because something that you said is kind of like sitting on me and I can't show up and be there for you right now. But I've learned how to master that conversations without saying, like, no, that just thing, I can relate. Like, I've learned how to, like, you know, just learn how to make it clear, like, let's pause this. But I think that's what vulnerability looks like for me in my work, is to kind of process those feelings. And I hate to, like, switch gears to work, but process those feelings with, like, a supervisor and things like that. Because it's like, it's uncomfortable. And I figure sometimes I have this unrealistic expectation of myself, like, you should be able to take whatever clients give you. And even sometimes my friends, like, whatever they share, you should be able to take it, you know, process it, be there, show up. But vulnerability looks like, I can't even be here for you right now because I'm going through something. You know what I'm saying? Like, as much as I want to show up, I can't even process what you're saying because I'm thinking about something else. But But to get back to what I was originally saying, like even just taking a risk, it looks like just vocalizing those things and sitting in your discomfort and saying like, this is uncomfortable in a sense. Like I challenge my clients all the time. I say, look, whenever you feel like as a clinician that I'm coming at your neck, like I'm being your mirror and I'm throwing it back right at you and you start feeling defensive, I say, take a minute and say, Miss Tierra, I feel uncomfortable right now. That's enough vulnerability right there. That's an extra step. Instead of you reacting, shutting down, just simply say, this is uncomfortable. Because now I get it in a sense. I've seen people just go right. I come back to them, they come right back at me, and I'm like, hold up, I'm just your mirror. Like, I'm just repeating what you said.
That's good.
But I think that's what vulnerability looking like. Even just taking a pause and like, can we come back to this conversation? You know. So yeah.
Okay, and so would you all say on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being naked, because I see vulnerability as like naked, and 1 being like we fully clothed out here in this piece, or we are covering ourselves up. On a scale of 1 to 5, how vulnerable is your spaces and your friend spaces?
I feel like I'm a 3. Okay. You know, I feel like, I got on like little short shorts, you know what I'm saying? I feel like I got a crop top on, I'm showing some skin, but not too much skin, but just enough skin.
Okay.
I think one thing I know I struggle with is like, I pick and choose which vulnerable side of me that I want to show.
Okay.
In a sense. And I pick and choose depending on what friendship I have, and I'm learning how, like there's some friends that I know certain versions of my life, and then some friends that don't, and it's just sometimes I don't know how to unpack it all to all my close circle in a sense. So I feel like I get stuck at that sometimes because some people are like, see, I didn't know that about you. I'm like, oh, really? Sorry. But
I told you.
like, sorry. But it's like, I feel like that's what sometimes I don't know how to just be fully naked. And then I'm also thinking like, who taught me that?
Some questions, but that's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to jump. Yeah, you're right. Sorry. I'm not trying to jump.
Nope. Stay right there. 1 to 5 in your household.
In my household? Oh, I'm definitely like a 4.
Okay. So more vulnerable at home.
Wait, I thought naked is vulnerable.
Naked is number 5. You said number 4. So you took off the crop top at home. You took off the shorts.
So no, yeah, I'm not as vulnerable at home.
So you go down. 1 is fully clothed. 5 is naked.
I thought you said 5 is like full clothes and okay. Sorry.
So like 2.
So definitely a 2. Yeah, I don't think I'm as vulnerable at home. I think I was having a conversation with my mom the other day, and I was just like, Ma, like I've noticed my family, we have this keep going and going mentality. Like we gotta, if something happens, all right, we gotta figure it out, keep going. Life gonna throw you stuff, but you can't stop here, such and such. But I'm like, what does it look like if we actually stop and process these things? You know what I'm saying? And like she was like, I was like, Ma, what does it look like to be mad at somebody that did something that deserved you to be mad at them? You know what I'm saying? And she was like, are you telling me to be mad? I was like, yes. Like, it's okay to be mad. But she was just, we end up engaging more in the conversation like, well, I was always taught to keep going and going and going. And I'm like, this is not healthy. How has this benefited you? Because I know now, I have also that mentality that I got to keep going, don't give up. And now in my late 20s, I've learned to actually sit in my discomfort and process those things, go to therapy and things like that. But it's like, I realized this is something I was taught. This is something she was taught. And it's like a generational type of thing. But I know even I've seen my mom put on, she's fully clothed. You know what I'm saying? And it has taught me to be, not blaming her, but it's saying I have also realized I'm fully clothed at home as well. So I question, what does it look like to have those vulnerable conversations? But I know I need to also be mindful and open to have those vulnerable conversations, because there might be things that I might not want to hear, that might stings, you know, but
Okay.
yeah.
And then 1 to 5 in your romantic spaces.
Ooh.
Like literally, cause no.
You, okay, are you done?
Cause Boo can see you get out the shorts.
No, honestly, I don't even think I'm still fully clothed because I still feel like I can't wear my scarf around you. Like I feel like I need to let my hair flow, be out. I don't even like my hair in a ponytail because I just hate ponytails in my hair. And I feel like I get nervous when somebody see me in my scarf. Like it's like turn around, let me take this off.
Okay.
But and even that vulnerability, so I don't think I've gotten to that space where I feel like naked in a sense. I also feel like I haven't got there. That makes me nervous.
Okay. So friendship was 3, families 2, and relationships. Romantic relationship was 1. So you're going from like your most skin showing places with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
And backwards. Okay. Rakiya, I don't know if you heard the whole question. And your cute little puppy got in the way.
He did.
I miss the puppy.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
The dogs will not unite today.
Can I say it's hot in here now? Like, yeah.
You're like, I'm gonna take some clothes off. Okay, so I was saying on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being butterball naked, 1 being clothed, so vulnerable to not vulnerable. How vulnerable are you? Because she was talking about work first, about like how she felt in that space, but like how vulnerable are you in your friendships? How vulnerable are the spaces in your friendships?
I agree with Tierra. I think it depends on the relationship. I think I have, what I've noticed about myself is that I'll give a friend an inch and I'll see how they respond to it. And if they don't respond in a way that could kind of be unfair, but if it's not favorable to what I would like to hear, I may start to eliminate some conversations.
What would you like to hear? You give an inch, you would like to hear what?
It's not necessarily that I want to hear something, like I don't want to hear something that agrees with me, but dang, I remember you talked about this too in your videos, and I was like, she's why is she doing that? But kind of like, okay, so one of the friends that you described from the book was like the one that just agrees with you. I don't want to hear the friend that just agrees with me. I don't also want to hear the friend that like goes in on me either, because that may make me shut down. It depends on what I'm sharing, but like but yeah, it kind of depends on what I'm sharing. So it's like, okay, if I'm telling one thing and then somebody is like, oh my God, why did you do that, blah blah, this other stuff, or like if their answer is just like real weird, or if they don't respond, I'm just like, okay, we're not gonna share that anymore. That was weird. So that I feel like I tend to allow myself to be vulnerable with a person first, see how they respond, and then if they don't respond in a way that I'm like, okay, you didn't really give me much, then I'm gonna kind of retreat. So yeah, I've kind of noticed that for the friend space, but I would like to say that for the most part.
And I want you to think, when I say friends, I want you to think people who, like your most healthy spaces. I know we have spaces with people that's like associates. We're not going to consider them. We talk about people who technically are worthy of our truths. What level?
Okay. Worthy of my truth, I could be Butterball. I could give you my all. Yeah. I usually would be like, that's my best friend. You're about to get all of this. I'm what's up? I'm not happy about it. Let's talk. And like, if it's gonna be an unpacking moment because it's a healthy space, I'm cool with that, because I'm like, cool. The air is fresh, so I can be open and tell you all the things that have happened. So yeah, I'll say that. I've also noticed that, and this will kind of shift into the family, but I've noticed that for me, my friends, because I grew up an only child, even though I have a ton of siblings on my dad's side, but my friends were my family. So I'm butterball with my friends, but my family, because I had my friends as my family, my family probably gets a 3. And I haven't really, I don't think that I treat every person as a person rather than a title. So I can see that, like, just because somebody is my family does not mean that they're going to process like my friend will process. So I have some family members where, like, I may have finally gotten to this place of understanding this thing about myself and have shared it. Yeah. And they would respond very oddly. And I'm like, okay, we're not gonna talk about that. And so then I put them further down the line and, like, I'm gonna put some clothes on because I can't be butterball with you. And there's some family members where it's like, we haven't cultivated a relationship. And as much as I've wanted to cultivate a relationship, if they're not going to be open, then we're going to continue to be fully clothed. So I've noticed that my friends have gotten a little more than my family has. The one person, though, that I do feel like I am getting closer in the 5 stage with is my mother. Because over time, like,
oh no, 5, you're right.
Yeah. So
you began yourself.
Don't do me right
now. Me and my mom are definitely like, hello, we are butterball. Like, we probably went from like a 2 or 3 and not really knowing how to unpack with each other. And then as we got older, it was like I could talk to my mom about some of the most uncomfortable stuff and just be like, okay, she's accepting of what I'm saying and I'm accepting of what she's saying. So now we're like best friends. We not mom and daughter anymore. Mm-hmm. So that's been really cool to see our relationship trying to kind of go up the ladder or down the ladder, however the ladder is going. We're going to the 5.
Right. You getting naked.
Just to be clear, 5 is
we naked.
Is naked.
We're naked. 1 is
girl. Okay, because I think I mixed that up a couple of. I know I did. Because you're like 4. I'm like, no, I said 3 too. Like, what are you talking about?
You just want to be naked.
I know.
like all of them, I'm bad. Okay.
Everybody else
right.
Transitioning down into my romantic relationships, I've noticed that the older I've gotten, the more vulnerable I've been able to be. I've also noticed that, and that's come with accepting myself too, and realizing, like, okay, this made me. I have to be okay with it. If they ask a question, I have to answer it, or I don't have to answer it, but I should answer it because it's allowing me to be vulnerable with that person who is genuinely trying to get to know me. And if they so choose that they're going to judge me, then they're not for me. I think for my relationships, I would say I'm a 4 in the relationships. I try to get as naked as possible, but keep a little clothes on. He can't get it all just yet.
He can't see it all.
I'm just saying.
It's your bra.
In my bra, like, hey, bra and earrings.
That little bit. No, I think that's so good because I think when I hear you say, like, the older you get, I almost feel like you almost get to a place where you don't have the tolerance to, like, be lying or, like, not telling you what it is. Like, listen, my attitude stank.
Right. Now that we're breaking these numbers down, you got me making me want to go back and look at my numbers a little bit because I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and
you got time and space. Would you like to update your numbers?
Yes, I do want to update my numbers. Can I?
But here, let me just tell you, girl. As I've gotten older too, my romantic relationships, our first like week of conversations, they get me with a scarf on. I'm like, you were gonna see me at my
that takes courage.
And I want you to, oh my God, like, I'm telling you, I've worn bonnets on phone calls and been like, you're going to like me or you're not, but we're having this nighttime call, and because you called me at night and I am no longer taking it down, you're gonna see me in this bonnet. And if you don't like my bonnet, then we're going to figure something else out. I've literally had somebody buy me a new bonnet because they didn't like the bonnet that I wore. I said, come on then. Amen. Let's go. Like,
thank
this
you.
is what I'm talking about. But I was vulnerable, so.
Yeah. See, I've heard guys say to me, like, oh, Tierra, I wouldn't care if your bonnet on or whatever. I'm like, you ain't ready for it, though. Like, you saying it, but.
Like, once they know.
I got a round face. Like, sir, you ain't ready for it.
I feel like once they know what's under that bonnet, you will have a free pass to look.
That's true. I think
You know what's coming out of here.
That's true. That's true.
Like ta-da-da tomorrow.
Like you ain't meet me in a bonnet.
I get, yeah.
I tried one night to be cute, right? Now look at my hair, y'all. Let's just take a look. I'm on the phone like, it's midnight, sis. What you doing? You know your natural hair not oil. I'm all like, let's fall asleep. Woke up, man. I might be more embarrassed for you to see me like this. Because how I'm about to back.
Oh, gosh. The most I've done is I will pin curl my hair to go to sleep. Wake up, pins all like this, hair sticking up like this, that, like that.
They're like...
Oh, gosh. Wait, so let me redo my numbers. So, in regards to friends, 5 being naked, I do say I am a 4. Okay, let me take that back because now we're thinking healthy relationships and things like that. Mm-hmm. I didn't even factor that piece in.
We're not worried about them like.
Gotcha. We ain't worried about it. Okay, gotcha. So I do think I am a 4. My family, 0 being fully clothed. I still think I'm a 2.
Okay.
In that piece. Relationships.
Say you put on a winter coat. Girl, I was like, she going. She was like fully clothed, right?
0. I'm on a winter coat.
Sweater, scarf, hat, like you don't see nothing.
I'm not mad at you.
Like,
when you said winter coat, I'm like, she's going on winter clothes.
I say intimate relationships. I do say I'm a 3 because now that as I was listening to Rakiya, I think now that I've dated more and stuff, I do see myself having more vulnerable conversations. I still think I'm still in the middle, but I do say like, I've been through this in the past and things like that, or even just like sharing. Like I remember I was sharing with a friend the other day and he was just like, he just offered so much good advice and didn't say much, but it was kind of me feeling comfortable enough to say like, I was having a conversation with my mom and that didn't go well. And he was just offered the advice. And normally I don't just run to like God. I always go to my girls, but it was just nice just to hear somebody just say like, well, think about this a little bit, T, and stuff like that. And I was just like, okay, like, all right. But it was just nice, you know what I'm saying? But I know that took courage for me just to even share that side of me, that vulnerable side, because I'm used to being the one facilitating conversations such as, let me know this about you, you know what I'm saying? But for me to be like, let me share this about myself, and this is what I'm struggling with right now. I think that took courage. So I do think that's a step for me. So I'm going to say the 3.
Okay.
Thank you for breaking that down more, Rakiya, because you got Alicia over here mixing up numbers and stuff like that.
It's funny, like, and I'm not going to harp on this. We can go to the next question. We have about maybe 10 more minutes.
Already?
I know. I was looking at the time like, wow, okay. It's been good talking so far. I think when I was younger, my romantic relationship was definitely the place I was most vulnerable. And I'm not that person that ever blames my father's absence for that. But I do think my father's absence played a role in why my boyfriends had much authority to speak, because they were affirming and all these things. But I think as I've gotten older, my partners and my friends have been neck and neck, but my friends remain my most naked place, because I think there's still a level of like you still present yourself to your friends. Your family be like, "Now I remember when you was dirty," okay? And you like, dang, I can never outlive that. But with your friends, it's like, okay, I kind of can still share with you the parts that I'm working on. You're not coming at me with like this history. But I think it's interesting. Like, I do think as we get older, our tolerance for not being vulnerable shifts. Even if we're not doing anything intentional with our vulnerability in our life, I think we just get to a place where it's like, this is who I am. You get fed up. Like, I don't have time to waste. You get so many partners in life that you like, I don't want to give this man 6 months for him to find out what the last man found out in a year. Like, I'm going to tell you week 1. Like, you start to just be like, it ain't changing, you know? But I do think our friends are like the people we choose. And so that makes all the difference in how much of a safe space it is. Like, you know, I've been both of y'all over 10 years, I think, each. And so at some point, it's like, well, we ain't sleeping together, but I am choosing to eat with you every day at lunch, or I am choosing to call you. And so I guess I should show some leg, you know, and at some point, credit history with this person is like, dang, you right, you have watched me lie all my life, but you ain't got oh dang. Whereas with your boyfriend,
you watched me lie all my life.
I you out lying to my boyfriend, so you gotta know more. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like your friends become that like naked place, you know?
Yeah.
So that's were you about to say something, Tierra? I thought I saw you.
I was. I actually thought about it because even I feel like with my friendship with you, and I think Rakiya can probably pick up on it too, like you always wasn't like the open book. You know, if we having vulnerable conversations, it'd be like, so like I noticed like when we was younger, Alicia used to like, it would be about her, but she would flip it about me. And I'm like, wait, let's get back to that conversation that you just tried to skip over. And she would be so hot about it. And I'm like, no, you definitely just said something. But I've noticed like over the years, you have been able to acknowledge that. I feel like at first when we were younger, you really didn't like, what are you talking about? But I noticed like you've been able to be honest about that. And there's been times like we'll get into a disagreement and then like you'll be able to be like, all right, you know what, you're right and stuff like that. But I have noticed that like with you. Like, do you agree? Kai, do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
what you're saying. And you know what? The funny thing, I get what you're saying because I do it too.
Let's talk about it then. Let's get it. Let me crawl from under the bus since you want to. I think that mindset comes from being the strong friend, and not even let's break this down a little bit.
Ooh, girl,
that from moms who like. I love that you said your mom is someone who just learned to work through it. I think all of our moms have been single parents or have had to be the breadwinner or the laborer, whatever we want to call them at some point. And in the household, not that it was a negligent household, but like if mom's not home to help me unpack and that's the only parent, then you learn to be strong in your, like, whether it's in your sibling relationship or in the relationships you carry, you take on a posture that's like, this is light work, right? And so I think before you all have earned a place for me to show a sign of weakness, I think I just was like, we don't need to talk about me. Like, let's talk about you because I'm good, right? But I have said multiple times through the series, and I constantly tell myself in my head that I want to debunk the mindset of being a strong friend, because to say I'm the strong friend implies that my circle includes weak friends. And it's like, it also really minimizes the people who, like, for real, if we are accepting the mindset of strong friend, we're saying the people who are telling us they need help, who always need advice, who's always telling us what's going on in their life, they're weak. But according to this series, they are the strong ones because they always tap into their community. They always get what they need. You never have to guess what's going on with them. They're patient and graceful with themselves. And really the person who's trying to carry the world is weak. And so I think that's where that behavior came from. It was like, not that I wanted to be a strong friend, but I think I needed to see that, like, you were going to hit me up like, nope, I was definitely talking about you. Like, and if I didn't get that from a person, kind of like how Rakiya was saying, like her benchmarks of like, I give you an inch, you better respond the right way or you're not going to get more. It was kind of like, I'm going to be strong right now. And if you let me be strong, I'm going to continue to be strong. But if you call me out, okay, I'm going to put the weights down. I'm going to put the weights down. And I'm going to tell you something. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate because it's like we put people who are in a relationship through these tests.
Yes.
Actually, I do want to talk about me today, but it's hard to do that, you know? So what do you all think about that mindset of just like strong friend, and like, you don't have to debunk the term, but like, has it been something you've been called? How has it affected your relationships? Do you struggle still today to ask for help? You know, what does that look like?
Go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead.
Under the bus, so one of y'all come out. Y'all calling me out. We all going down.
Everybody go down. That chapter punched me in my face. Like, I have always been the person that people would come to, tell all this stuff. I would help them, words, wisdom, encouragement, whatever the case may be. And I think what makes it easy to be the person that somebody comes to at some point is because you are helping somebody through their stuff, and they don't have, they're processing so much, they may not have enough to ask you what's going on. So you do constantly kind of go through this cycle, but not realizing that in that moment you probably should say, you know, hey, let me also tell you something that's going on, or at another conversation, let me also tell you something that's going on, instead of pushing things down. I've noticed for me that because I played the strong friend, it generally caused me a lot of like sitting in quiet,
I was just about to say isolation.
Yeah, like really allowing the enemy to attack me, tell me like, you know, my friends don't do this, my friends don't do that, they may not care about me, nobody's asking, nobody's checking up on me, and it's not necessarily that, it's that I'm not opening up, but it's also like, well, what am I looking for from the people that I want them to ask me certain things about? So you know, am I looking for the listening ear? Am I looking for the advice? Am I looking for, you know, what am I sharing because we've gone through similar experiences and I want to know, you know, can they help or whatever? But I in listening to Alicia break down that that chapter in the book, it really hit me because I was like, dang, like I am the weak friend. I'm the one holding on to all this stuff, not letting anything go. And I'm just steady being like, okay, well, I'll take their stuff and I'll take their stuff and I'll take their stuff and I'll take their stuff. And I'm not processing any of my stuff. And I'm not telling anybody any of my stuff either. So I'm just going to struggle in silence while they're flourishing in the open because they're sharing their story. So I thought that really hit me for a second, where I was like, okay, I have to be vulnerable. I have to take risk. I have to open up in order for me to be the real strong friend, like the real who can actually unload and let all that stuff off of me and not just sit in that isolation. But yeah, that part had punched me in my face, and I was like, Alicia, you're annoying. Stop unpacking this book. Stop reading it right now. Throw it in the trash.
Look at me read it. I'm like, dear local police, a woman named Brene is abusive. Like,
me.
her footprint on my neck if you need record. Like, okay.
And sorry, one thing I'm gonna say, too, it actually made me find more of an appreciation for the people that do actually share their story, because it showed me that they have a characteristic that I actually desire to have, and I'm lacking. And so instead of me looking at them and being like, dang, you always got an issue, you always got this, you always have that, it was like, dang, I really appreciate the fact that you were able to even open up, you know, and say something, because I'm over here looking real weak, like not saying nothing, like, looking real like depressed, isolated, and by myself because I'm not talking about anything. And so I really do appreciate those people who are able to actually open up and say something about what was going on, because that's a strength.
I want to hear from you too, Tierra. I just want to read something real quick because I think this is like so interesting. She says on page 21, she says, for years I placed you on being the helper in my family. To help with the crisis or lend money or dispense advice. I was always happy to help others, but I would never call my siblings to ask them for help. So in place of siblings, I want you to think about the person who you feel like they can never give me advice. She said, especially for support during a shame storm. At the time, I would have denied attaching judgment to my generous giving, but now I understand I derived self-worth from never needing help and always offering it. Y'all, when I read that, I was like, I need to call my siblings. Like, because it's interesting, like, those are really your first friends. And I'm like, I don't think I'm close with my siblings. The irony of it is I'm close with them, but I'm like, are we close on surface? This was when I first read it, right? And it made me want to, like, be more intentional to hit my sister and brother up and be like, y'all, I'm having a sad weekend. And that was weird. Like, I'm going to be honest. When I used to do that, like, randomly, I don't even think they would remember this. It almost went amiss. Like, they didn't even read it. Like, did y'all hear me? Like, if that's not the norm, it also is weird when you first integrate it.
Yeah.
People be like, okay, at least
like,
right. Period. No, I'm not on my period. I'm having a sad weekend. Like, help me.
They're like, somebody took her phone. Like, somebody texted her. Who stole her phone?
I love that she says that she derives self-worth from always offering help and never. Because sometimes we don't even realize that we pride that badge of honor. Like, we have the badge of honor of being a virgin, badge of honor of abstaining, badge of honor of being a helper. You tired, sis. Why are you wearing that badge of honor? Like, you know.
Yeah.
Like Tierra. Strong friend, my
friend. No, no. I think y'all hit a lot of good points. And I know I've been a strong friend. And like I had mentioned earlier, I think I used to have this unrealistic expectation that if my friends know me, they know when I'm upset. Like if I send like some type of message, they should already pick up. Some friends have, you know what I'm saying? And then some friends haven't. And instead of me being vulnerable enough and say like something is not right, I just carry on or I keep on going, and it gets brought up in conversations later, you know. And I remember I did that with you a couple of times, Elise. You like, Tierra, why you didn't say this? I'm just like, you know, it's like I get stuck, you know. It's like I couldn't be vulnerable. I wanted to be vulnerable, but I didn't know how to be vulnerable and ask for help at that time. But also, as a friend, I want to learn how to show up the way they want me to show up. Like ask them, how do you feel supported, or how can I support you at this time? I used to be like, okay, they text me something, I got to respond a certain way. I got to offer some encouragement. This is what help looks like for me. But sometimes, and she mentioned in the book, showing up is kind of just like just sitting in quiet. Yeah. How can I help you? How can I support you right now? Do you want me to listen? Do you want me to respond? Most of the time, I know, like, I just wanted Alicia just to listen, you know, because I know she was going to dig in. She was going to dig in my stuff. I was like, just listen. I'm just listening. I'm like, you don't got to text back.
Don't text back. I'm like, but how you going to know I read it? I got to text back.
Just like it or something. I know you read it.
Or the other favorite, where you'd be like, do you want me to respond or do you want me to listen? You'd be like, I want you to listen. You get to the end and you'd be like, actually, I'm going to respond. You'd be like, I didn't ask you to do that.
you ain't listening.
I learned with y'all that y'all want me to listen when y'all not ready for correction or good advice. I'll be like, I love you too much to let you drown.
Yeah, that's true.
And then right when she started responding, I'd be like,
I know, right? You see the little bubble pop up like,
oh,
like,
God. You had one.
Hey, my messages is green. Hey. Check your email.
But it's real though. It's like sometimes I get into this fix it mode. Like I gotta help her. I gotta help him. I gotta fix it and stuff like that. It's like, that's just a lot of weight in itself. It's like sometimes people feel supported with you just listening. I've even learned how to practice that with my clients now. It's just like one client, he straight up said, like, I honestly expected you to say more. Like he poured out his heart. He's like, I expected you to say more, Tierra. I was like, no, I just wanted to take it in and listen. And, you know, if you would like me to respond, I will, but I don't want you to think like that has to always be the go-to is me responding to you. Sometimes as a clinician, you want to just sit and listen. It's awkward. Nobody likes to sit in that quietness, but sometimes what you say, it deserves quietness in a minute, in a sense. So, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I have one last question. We are not talking more after this. This is
I'm loving this though.
I'm so happy. I love that y'all love it because
I think we need a part 2. Like,
listen. What's up? I didn't say it had to be open for good, but it is Saturday, and I know y'all some fine little tenderonis, and it's a nice day out, so I'm trying to be mindful of y'all time. But I do want to touch on one more thing, and we can do this again. Like, it doesn't have to stop here. We can absolutely do a follow up. Part 2, I'm sure when people get wind of this video, they're going to be like, oh my God, I can relate to this person. I can really appreciate this response. But I do want to touch on this just because of where we are, age-wise. Can everybody hold up their left hand? Can you just go like that? Like, just hold your left hand up. Okay. It's here. We're not married, and I want to say that because it's kind of like, I know society says we should be by now. None of us have kids. And I want to kind of just talk about for 2 seconds the vulnerability that comes with meeting men, wanting marriage. I'm not going to put your dating status out there. That's completely up for you to do. We can be as ambiguous as you want. but just with your current experiences, your past experiences, I want to talk about the vulnerabilities of like, because I'll go for myself. I'll start first. Wanting to be married, wanting to have a partner, and it's not like at the top of my forehead, but it's no longer in the back of my head. It's like dancing right here, like, sis, what we doing? Like, when do you realistically want these babies? Like, career, all these different pressures. But the vulnerabilities between like meeting someone and liking them and being afraid of wasting time because you feel like you don't have that much time, or meeting someone and being disappointed still at this age. And it's like, oh my God, like, when are we going to lock in on things just being certain? And so while you're thinking about my question, because it's not that direct, I just want to read two things. Basically, I'm asking you, like, how do you deal with the vulnerabilities of the like dating space at this age? Because I feel like when I was younger, I was wanting to meet people, but you kind of, when you're 21, 22, you kind of like, I got all my life to live. And so you just be wasting time with people. Like, now I'm like, this ain't going nowhere. Like, I got to just go ahead and say it. It's not. When I was 22, I would be like, we can do this for another year. I got all my life to live. Now I'm really looking at the clock like, do I really want to spend an hour a day on the phone with you and it's not going nowhere? Yeah. So 2 quotes that really stood out to me. First is about how we process the vulnerabilities and how we numb it. Okay, so she says, for many of us, our first response to vulnerability and pain is not to lean into the discomfort. So I want you to think about your discomfort around dating, around not being married, around not having babies, but wanting those things, or if you don't want them, whatever that feels like. So instead of leaning into the discomfort and feeling our way through, rather, we want to make it go away. We do this numbing with the quickest relief, and it can be alcohol, drugs, food, sex, relationships, things of that sort. So I want you to think about your numbing, and then think about, do you have a healthy balance between experiencing joy and disappointment? Okay, and so she says, and this is one of my favorite quotes, and we're going to leave on this one. She says, joy is as thorny and sharp as any emotion. To love someone fiercely, to believe in something with your whole heart, to celebrate a fleeting moment, and to fully engage in a life that doesn't come with guarantees. So just think, joy is as thorny as any dark emotion. And so to immerse yourself fully with no guarantee, right? Because at this point, when we date people, we want positive outcomes, but we could look up and give a guy 2 more years and now we 30, and it's like, bruh, why are you wasting my time? I don't have it, right? She says, these are risks that involve vulnerability and often pain. So dating involves vulnerability and can also involve a lot of pain. When we lose our tolerance for discomfort, we lose joy. And so you kind of got to have a tolerance for both. You got to have a balance, like joy and pain. So like, just talk to me about the vulnerabilities of like, I know that was a lot. I know it was, but the vulnerabilities of like this space you're in right now. Like, if you can be comfortable to say, like, you know, these are the things I really want, and don't worry about sounding cliche, and what do you do if they're not happening, or if there's some discomfort around it? Like, are you numbing them? Are you leaning into it? Like, what's going on with that? She not loyal, Rakiya.
Yeah, I go.
She cleared her throat. She said, I'm over here like, she put her earphone in. Rakiya can hear you. Rakiya.
We got it. Did you hear her question?
I guess let's break it down so it's not overwhelming.
No. I think you broke it down. You did good. So I think, that's what. So for the first time, I think I am learning to be more vulnerable in my interactions with men, letting them know what I want. So meaning a relationship. I think with my girls, we had the conversation, like, I want a relationship. I want this. But I realize when it comes to interacting with guys and I meet somebody, I tiptoe around the I want a relationship conversation. Like, I start feeling like, well, I want to grow into something, you know, I want to start off as a friendship and then it grows into something, but it's like no expectation. Like, instead of me being direct and saying, no, I'm in a space where I want something serious. I want to invest in something serious, not saying you know, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But that's my intentions now in dating, is to have a partner in a sense. I feel like now I'm having that conversation, but before, like, even I had somebody told me, like, Tierra, you just went around in a whole circle. And I'm like, mind your business. Like, go to hell. But I just feel like I did that because I used to sometimes date guys who didn't want a relationship. So I felt like I needed to match that energy and not give that all and say I want it, but kind of give like that half, like I would want something serious, but you know, like, but I realized me not owning that and me not being real about it, those relationships never worked in a sense, because I wanted something even more than the other person, but my talk didn't match it. Like my talk didn't match my actions in a sense. So now in my dating, if I do hear a guy say like, oh, I'm not looking for a relationship, blah, 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 I'm still staying firm by what I want. And, you know, we can still get to know each other and stuff. But when it comes down to the line, like, you know, I do want this, you know, and I'm more so like I'm claiming it. It's so hard because I still be sometimes feel like I'm tipping toeing, but I'm really trying to claim it. And I'm also learning how, as I am dating, being open to different avenues regarding dating. Like, I feel like I used to be like, oh, I'm gonna meet my boo at the grocery store or out and things like that. And now I'm like open to online dating. You know what I'm saying? It's like, to me, dating looks like you putting yourself in a position to meet people. So I can't sit here and say I want to date, but yeah, I'm dependent on one location to meet somebody. I think that's unrealistic. Whereas like, you know, even with online dating, I think it's become more normal, because I don't think I would have actually admitted to nobody that I've tried online dating. But I think now it's one of those things where it's like I'm open to avenues, you know, not saying like I want a relationship and if I don't ever have it, I'm not going to be whole. But what I'm saying is like, this is an area, like if I'm going to invest my time and things like that, now that I have a career and things like that, I would want a partner in a sense. I want to invest my time and energy, my emotions, that vulnerability to like something that is growing into something. If it doesn't, that's cool. But at least it was that thought, like, you know, I was giving a side of me to somebody who was meeting me halfway. In a
Both
sense,
of y'all had the intentions of
at that intentions. And I think, you know, at least I've shared with you, I've been wanting a relationship for years and things just never worked out. So I'm like, Tierra, at what point have you also been honest about what you want in the beginning, in a sense? And I think I'm still like stuck in the middle of like, if somebody say they don't want a relationship, do I still want to entertain them? I think I'm still caught in that decision making. But then I also know, just like me, people have the right to change their mind. And I know I had changed my mind on a lot of things. Heck, next week I might say, you know what? Thought about the relationship thing for years. Don't want it. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to change your mind. So I feel like I would not exit a person out my life because they don't want it, because it could be a bomb friendship. You know what I'm saying? But I'm also just trying to make sure I'm sticking to my, you know, what I want, my truth. That's my truth, for real.
So when those relationships didn't end in a relationship, how did you respond to, like, did you have any numbing factors? Numbing factors is like, here's the disappointment. I was being vulnerable and now I'm disappointed. And so instead of leaning into this discomfort, I'm going to have sex, I'm going to go shopping, I'm going to eat, I'm going to, like, do you have...
I think I've always been dating. Like, I think that's been my numbing, is something don't work with a guy, I've always end up meeting somebody a month later or something like that. And I'm just,
Okay, hottie.
No, not like that. But
You a cutie, okay?
No, but I'm just saying, I've noticed like I'm always dating. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this is the longest I have taken a break from dating, now that I actually think about it. Like, I've taken a break. And I wouldn't say like I wanted it to be this long, but it has come like that. So I think a part of like my numbing, it was just always, something didn't work. Give me a month, I bounce back, start talking to somebody new. And not saying it because I'm talking to somebody new, he got that version of me, but I always had a distraction in a sense. So I think it wasn't until last year till I was actually that stung. Like that didn't work because I was putting in my all. Like, you know what I'm saying? That really did sting. I mean, I was talking to my therapist about it. Like it just, because I was dating somebody then, but it just really stung. And I did not know what to do with it. But then after like processing it and leaning on my friends more and just, I always felt like, oh, I don't want to keep talking about it to annoy my friends or keep bringing this person up. But it just I feel like that took courage of me to even keep saying like, yo, I still think about that. You know, I still think about that L. And it's like, it was a reminder of other relationships that didn't work. So it's just like, I feel like I see this pattern. Is something going on with me? Like, you know, but
I love that.
I think for a while that was my thinking, was keep on talking and dating and stuff like that. And now I look at, if something's not working, it's okay. You know what I'm saying? I think it still stings, but it's kind of embrace that hurt. Now that's what I'm doing. Like I'm learning like, okay, that did not feel good, but I'm talking about it rather than sitting, isolating and thinking about it and coming up with these different scenarios in my head that's not really real. So
no, I love that. So you're numbing, one of your numbing, because we have many, with dating. And I think people need to know that. Like numbing looks different to everyone. It could be every time I break up, I'm going on a trip. Every time I break up, I'm about to go out to eat. Every time
you know, traveling was my thing.
I was thinking you was gonna say it, so I was like, okay,
you are right. I'm like, Lisa, you trying to plan a trip?
Listen, nobody be out of here like Tierra. I thought I was on a flight. Tierra will be like updating me through text, like, "Hey, girl, I'm in Argentina. Let me tell you what I'm with." I'm like, but I think that's a numbing factor.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
Even though it doesn't,
you got me.
Even though it doesn't deal with what happened, for a moment, we don't have to deal with that.
That is true.
We have this like high of where we are, like, you know, this high of this meal or high of this shopping cart or high of this, whatever it is, that numbing.
Yeah.
That you don't have to lean into it. And so I'm really happy that you also mentioned, like, however, last year, instead of using a numbing factor, you were in therapy. Like that is bomb.com, you know? Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I forgot about the whole traveling because I definitely feel like if I'm hopping on a plane somewhere, I'm resetting somewhere. So that's good.
No, that quote right there, if I'm hopping on a plane somewhere, I'm resetting somewhere. Listen, but that's real. Like even the mindset of like, we don't catch feelings, we catch flights. If you really think about stuff like that, it's like, sis, yes, you did catch feelings.
And you know what I realized, and I'm in it there, but as I was traveling, numbing those things, I was still thinking about those things at my destinations. So it wasn't as enjoyable.
A waste of money. Trust me, I get it. You like, I could have cried in my living room. I'm trying to enjoy.
I could have been in my feelings in my backyard.
The lizards in Florida. I could have been dealing with roaches in DC. Like, it brings you up, but you just think that you're getting ahead, you know? Yeah. So, okay. Rakiya. Woo.
I feel like so many different things are going through my head all at the same time. So I'm gonna try to piece this together and make it make sense. But
it's all right. We here. We listening.
Follow me, please. Okay, so. All right. So one thing that you said about the joy piece was very interesting because joy obviously has this like element of like happiness, happy moments, you know, all the other stuff, but it also does have its pain, like you said. And one of my issues, of course, as she talked about in this book, that you talked about in this book, came from me before, is me being a perfectionist. And so in being a perfectionist and in dating and in experiencing joy, when I see something that looks like disappointment because I haven't fully understood what joy meant, then that, to me, when I'm looking at a relationship, I'm like, well, that doesn't look perfect, so I'm going to drop it. And so I would have this whole, like, kind of like a cycle. Now, some of the people I dated should be dropped. They definitely were worthy of being dropped. Is that a thing? I was like,
not worthy of being dropped.
They cheated. They did some real low stuff, you know, whatever. They were disrespectful, whatever the case may be. but it also made me look at myself to see like, okay, what is it that I'm giving to this person that is making them respond this way? Or is it just them?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of understanding that. So yeah, there's one point to that. I think whenever moments like that would happen where I would kind of like drop that space or something would happen to me, I think similar to you, Tierra, I would probably numb by dating, or numb, you know, at younger, I would numb by sex. Get under to get over, you know, whatever the whole phrase is.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, I was like, okay, that's not necessarily what I should be doing, not necessarily what I want to be doing, because that's connecting me to somebody that I probably am not going to have a long-term situation with. So maybe that's not the right way to go about that. I think, so then, okay, transitioning a little bit, because it's something else I thought about with the kids and marriage part. So a lot of on my mom's side of the family all had kids when they were in their early 20s. And we have this thing in our family where everybody's born in the year of a one. So it's like my mom was born in 71. I was born in 91. My great grandmother was born in 21. My cousin was born in my aunt was born in 41. So to me, I was like, okay, well, when I turned 21, which was in 2011, I'm supposed to be having a kid. I was not going to be nobody's mother in 2011 at 21 in college when I was out here trying to be at all the parties. So, and do my schoolwork, of course. But as I've gotten older, and obviously you start to see a lot of people around you having kids, it does kind of put you in a place where you're like, okay, well, I thought I was going to follow a family tradition, which now I'm not. And now I'm seeing all my friends have kids, and I'm still dealing with people and dating in a space that they may not be ready for kids, but I would like kids. But I don't want to be 30 when I have kids, but now I'm hitting on 30. Yeah. And so you kind of start wrestling with all of this. And then you're thinking like, okay, well, I want to break generational curses, so I don't want to have a kid out of wedlock. But now that means I have to date somebody long enough for me to like them and not rip them apart because I'm a perfectionist, and find, you know, like it was just all these little things that were coming all at once. And so I think as I've gotten older, one of my numbing factors, if not dating, has now been getting busy. So I've just been finding ways to be busy in something. It may be that I am taking a bunch of classes. I may be finding a new career field. I may be switching a job and now I have to put more focus into that. I may, you know, change something in my house. Like whatever the case is, I'm going to do something, because now it's going to take me away from the thought of even thinking about whatever it is that I desire. In my dating spaces though, I do try to be more cognizant of the fact that I do actually want marriage and kids. And so I try to bring that up early, because I don't want us to be on different pages. Yeah. I want to know that our desires are similar. So for instance, there was a person I was dating before that we were in a relationship for a while. It was great, celibate relationship, all this stuff. And when you're younger, you think about when you're younger, you don't factor in the important things. Like you might think like, oh my God, I love him. And so regardless of what our views are on something, we're going to eventually come together. But I think it's okay to say, you want 7 kids and I don't. And that should be enough for me not to stay in this relationship, because as I'm getting older, that's not something I want. And so I stayed in a relationship where somebody told me, you know, they wanted this amount of kids and I didn't want that, where they chose where we were going to live and I didn't want to be there, where they told me where they were, you know, on and off in their emotion and had moments of being rude or whatever. And I stayed because I'm like, okay, well, I love this person. So, you know, maybe one day it'll change, but not realizing that I had to experience that disappointment, in that the values and the qualities just weren't matching up. It couldn't be that one thing fit something that I wanted and then everything else didn't fit, because it wasn't going to fix it. So, and nothing was going to change. And I can't go into something expecting I'm going to change somebody, and somebody can't come into it expecting that they're going to change me. And so I found the importance in, and I don't want to go down the long road of being in a relationship and then possibly not having a friend, because that's essentially what I realized I started to do. Was I would be cool with somebody, become friends with them, we would end up getting into a relationship, and it probably should have stayed a friendship. And now we don't like each other. And so it goes down this roller coaster of like, dang, I could have kept that person as a friend, but we started to like each other, and now it just ruined everything. So I think there are moments where as I was sitting here thinking about it, I've realized that I'm vulnerable when I like someone and I'm wanting to go forward with dating them because they've said enough for me to realize like, okay, I can open up and I feel like we're aligning. But I realized I haven't been vulnerable with the people who tell me that their views are different than mine when I am dating. So if they tell me, you know, they have a kid or they, I don't know.
Anything that goes against you.
They don't have something in particular that I want. I may not upfront say, hey, I actually don't really want that. I really do desire to be married first and then have kids, or I do desire that the person I'm with has more intellectual stimulation than, you know, that we can match on each other's level or whatever. Like I may not say that. And so I just kind of like uncomfortably sit in the position until it falls off. And so I've noticed that about myself over time, that I'm like, okay, so in certain spaces I have to be comfortable with speaking up because I'm so used to being the person that people speak to, and then also be okay with you know, whenever they tell me something that doesn't align, just being okay with being like, okay, you know, I really appreciate that about you, but I actually don't want that. And I don't think that we should move forward in this space, but I do think that we should be friends because I really value some of the qualities about you that I think are great. And then experience disappointment in an early stage versus experiencing disappointment once I've already done them. So that's
write that down because
listen. Wow. Vulnerability in those moments when just beginning to date, having to step up and be honest about our truths before it even takes off. Like, actually, I'm not gonna ride this roller coaster because I don't like you. Like that's probably, we think it's hard to cut things off, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be hard to say don't start. Like, let's not even start. But it's like in that moment, that's the make or break, and we always miss it. We always just be like, I'm gonna just try.
And I also think it's that, and I know for me, I think is I don't want to hurt their feelings by just like ending things right away without even giving it a try. In a sense,
really save their feelings.
It's like we're trying to protect their feelings, but we put ourselves last and we put them first, and it's kind of like, why?
I'm not putting the person first. I don't even know you.
I don't even know you like that.
I'm over here caring, like caring, like acknowledging it early.
Yeah. And I think that goes to the whole lying and authenticity, which we'll have to talk about in another video. But like how much we can save a person just by being honest. Like, yes, in this moment, it sucks that I'm telling you, hey, I don't want to be with you because you have a kid. Like, in hindsight, that might not register well to a father, but it will save him and that child so much time if they don't get to know me, because I'm not staying because you know. So no, that is really, really good.
Oh, this just like convicted me.
Right?
I'm annoyed. I'm about to
like I need to start having a couple of conversations. Like, we need to talk later on.
Like,
it's
like,
so about that conversation we had about 3 weeks ago.
Right. On the first date.
Right. Can we talk about that first date? I didn't spend your money. I'm gonna cash app you because I shouldn't have even done that.
Exactly. Can I pay that?
Those are little moments to be vulnerable, and we miss them.
Yeah.
And like, it's so many things to talk about in this little topic, but it's like, that's when we're not vulnerable, even though it seems like we're being naked, we're also shrinking. Like, we're choosing to shrink. We're choosing to be like, I'm going to magnify your wants, your needs, and I'm going to shrink down. When really, for any relationship to work, that's the moment when we have to be like, I'm showing up full force, because if you really want me, or if you really want this to be healthy, I can't shrink right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Ooh.
So anyway, it has been such a joy to talk to you too.
Hello.
And so refreshing and encouraging, and just everything. I don't even know, just all the things above. Before I close out, do you all have any questions, comments, anything you want to ask me, anything you want to say to the people watching? You don't have
part 2 is coming. Because I was looking at this list of topics.
In part 2.
Hello. It's definitely coming. No, but this is actually but discussions like this really fills my cup back up. I think it's just healthy to, as Black women, particularly Black women, coming together and just listening and supporting, and even just showing that naked side of ourselves and engaging in those conversations is things that we need to have more often.
Yeah.
And I think this conversation had me making me want to go back, like I said, have some conversations with some people. But it's so refreshing, especially now with us being in quarantine and stuff like that. We can't have that face to face like we want to with people, but just the idea of still having this discussion, you know what I'm saying? It feels like we all in person, just talking and stuff like that. And it's even just catching up with Rakiya. Like, we all went to high school together. I haven't seen you forever. So miss you, girl. But it's just nice because it's like I've learned a lot about Rakiya, just even in this session as well. And I like how everything just flowed. Like you did. We had to take a minute and answer these questions. We like, hold up. I mean, you told us like, but it's like, I'm actually listening to what I'm saying. I'm like, okay, like this is, our journey is going to be ongoing in a sense. You learn something new about yourself all the time. And it's just nice just to talk about it, and to relate about it. And like, I ain't by myself, like,
I'm not by myself. That's so good.
So, but I thank you for, creating this platform for us to come and share our experiences, for you doing this series. Like I told you, like, I felt like you was talking to your audience in your whole, every episode. I'm like, she really be talking like we responded to. She's like, you feel what I'm saying? I'm like, sis, you talking.
Like, stop. Because that's how I wanted to feel. I'm like,
yeah.
I've watched people.
But I love it. Like, I love it because I will be talking to the screen like she can hear me. And I'll be like, yes, girl. But it's just, I'm so proud of you. And I thank you for doing this. It has pushed me I haven't finished the book yet still. But I noticed I pick up this book when I start feeling like uncomfortable with something. I'm telling you, every time I pick up this book and read a chapter or something always just
it corrects it. It's just like
it does. It really does. But again, just thank you, girl.
Thank you.
Well, I definitely echo Tierra. I appreciate you even start doing this. Look. Whatever God told you to do when you started reading this book and just going through it was like perfect, and just recording it and giving people those nuggets, because even as we shared it out to other people were like, yo, I needed that. And there's so many books in the world that that people don't, have the opportunity to really read. And so you breaking this down really meant a lot. So I appreciate this platform, not only for you actually breaking it down in those spaces, but having us break it down with you, because even though you were talking to the screen and you were talking to us, and, we still have the opportunity to avoid it. So putting us in this space was like, whew, okay, I have to open up. I have to be uncomfortable. And like Tierra said, I've learned more about Tierra, known her 14, 15 years too. And it's like, dang, we're all growing in different spaces, but we are very similar in how we're processing. So that really meant a lot. And also during this quarantine, not really being around people, but being able to talk, in general, you have the opportunity to sit in isolation and not think or talk about anything or discuss anything. So I think this was perfect. This was perfect timing, to just sit and reflect and think like, all right, whew, she sat on my whole body, and I need to process this entirely. Even in the midst, I don't know where she went. Oh, my dog, she decided to have her little thing in the midst of it. And I was like, sis, you got to not. Like, I had processed.
Talk about my vulnerabilities as a dog.
I was like, Jesus Christ. But no, I think this was very much needed. This is like so perfect. I would definitely say for whoever is watching this, they need to go back and watch all the videos that you've done. And we definitely need to have part 2 because I'm over here like, okay, we need to unpack some more. Like,
exactly. What's the next topic? Let's go.
But
There's a couple in here.
So, I ultimately appreciate this moment. It was perfect.
We can
It was
do
perfect, even though we were discussing the gifts of imperfection.
Right. We can definitely do another one. I just want to encourage you all and any of the viewers that's watching to have these conversations in your circle. Like, I know without a shadow of doubt that I have a heart for community because I'm like, even if like you all do know each other, right? Even if you all never speak to each other again after today, let's just say this conversation has connected you in a way that's like, she gets it. You know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be that we have the same experiences, but it's like, you can never now undo the vulnerability that you shared right here. And even if you all never talk again about anything, when you get to a space, you've now created like a cushion of like, girl, you remember when we was talking? Like, it's like, you know better, I know better. We know that we have to be real and bring our best selves just because we unpacked and we shared even this little bit. But in some way, I think of it like, I'm trying to think what I see in my head, how to put it. I think of it like a circle with like branches, right? Like, this is me, this is Rakiya, this is Tierra. In some way, y'all just connected. And y'all might never talk again, but there's always that connection that just took place. And then y'all go have these conversations with your communities. And it still creates a culture and a behavior of like vulnerability. Like when you have conversations like this with your circle, to not have conversations of depth almost goes like, you can't undo it. Like, does that make sense? And so it is like, I think it's necessary not only to just have, here with us, but like being intentional to hit your friends up and be like, yo, what makes you feel worthy? Like, when I did the interview the other day, our last question for that interview was like, how much of a liar are you? Right? That's a really weird question to ask. But like, that's a really good question to ask someone that you're about to become friends with. Not to assess if they'll be your friend, but to know, okay, we got an honesty issue here. Because maybe your worthiness is off track. So that gives you insight on how you can best help that person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I just want to, say thank you for engaging the entire time, for lending me your time on a Saturday, for coming all cute. Y'all looking good, hair all flowing. I'm like, okay, glowing, brown skin, y'all looking yummy. For watching the videos, for even just picking up the book. I didn't need you to finish it. You didn't have to follow the entire series, but just lending your ear, your time, and being willing to say, you know what, I'll share. Like, I don't know what I'm going to share. I don't know where these questions going to go, but I can see you all like really just allowing it to be authentic so that it's like, it's not about you. It's about who's watching, it's about this moment. And so that means so much to me. And like, super big shout out to Tierra because she actually was the one that said, I think you should like do this. And I'm like, you know what? Because I was just gonna leave it at YouTube. Like, whoever watch it, they comment. And I love that, like, in your community, when people, believe in you and they see your vision and they can see where it can go, I appreciate you saying, like, okay, go a step further. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't just do the YouTube. Actually create a platform or a space to talk about it with people. And I'm like, thank you. That's what I feel like friends and community should do. It's like, I see your vision. I heard your vision. Here are some of my ideas. The same way I opened up and I'm like, do y'all got something y'all want to promote? Like, real friends don't let their friends play small and they don't withhold ideas and gifts because it's like, a win for me is a win for you. And like, based on the community branch I just showed you, when I win, T wins. When T wins is, oh, I remember T's talking about social work. I have an issue with my vagina and how I see it. Oh, somebody named Rakiya. Okay. I don't really want to talk about my vagina, but let me hit up Alicia. Like, now we just, you know what I mean? So thank you. It means so much to me. And so I will see you all in the next video.
Okay.
I'm going to stop recording so that y'all ain't gotta hang up all the time. Bye. Like, oh,
we get froze.
Bye.